I've seen the fire in our nation's eyes when anger prowls for prey. I've heard good people draw their lines and call it holy rage. But the cross was never raised to bless the stones we throw. And if mercy leaves the house, there's something wrong down in the soul. Words ain't bullets, but they can hit the same. And once a heart turns cold enough, it forgets what grace is for. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place. No room for hate. No, no room for hate. No room for hate. You can wave a flag above it, you can quote a verse or two, you can dress it up like justice till it almost sounds like truth. But outrage ain't righteous when it changes with the side. And you can't love your neighbor treating them like they're downrange. We're all image bearers, breath of God and dust. And you don't heal a broken land by teaching it not to trust. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place. No room for hate. No room for hate. No room for hate. Drag it to the cross, lay it in the ground. Let the blood of Jesus turn the whole thing around. Truth can still be spoken, courage still can stand, but rage don't get to rule the soul of a faithful man. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place.
Let revival start where the anger breaks.
Where the anger breaks.
Let healing rise up where the hurt gives way.
No room for hate.
No room for hate.
No, no room for hate.
No room for hate.
Not in Jesus' name. Oh, not in this house. Not in this heart. Not in His name. No room for hate.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Celebrity designer Jeff Lewis is back with Hollywood House Lift.
I'm excited to be working with new clients.
I'm not getting rid of that.
I hope I never see you both again.
An all-new season.
Those have to go. That has to go.
From oh, wow,
It's been an actual nightmare.
to oh, wow.
This is such an upgrade.
With celebrities like Josh Duhamel, Christina Ricci, and Gina Rodriguez.
Dazzle me, Jeff.
It looks like Chuck E. Cheese.
Stream an all-new season of Hollywood House Lift with Jeff Lewis, now streaming on Freevee.
In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
And before we officially get started today, I just wanted to let you know, because, I have connections. A friend in D.C. snuck a camera into Rep. Hakeem Jeffries' office. So we'll be checking in with him throughout the show today. You can see him on the screen right now. He's not having a good one. We'll get into more about that after we officially start the show right about now.
Got a vendetta. Coffee tastes like bad decisions I ain't made yet. Boss man talking about we got her, and that means me, brother. Afraid I got a terminal case of the I don't want us. Mind checked out, heart ain't in the building. That second hand's crawling like it hates my guts. The man treating rich like it's a sin, even God took a beat. So, suck it. Thank God it's Friday, punching out loud. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. Bill's still waiting, but tonight I don't care. Cold beer sermon and a barstool prayer. Take this job and shove it, I quit. Till Monday. Cause tonight I'm free. Yeah, working way. It ain't owning me.
All right, as much as I love the song and try to let it play all the way through on Fridays, we got a late start and I've got time to make up, and we've got way too much to talk about. So, as I mentioned a moment ago, thanks to connections in DC, I do have a camera currently trained on none other than Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. You can see him in the live shot right now. He is not having a good day, ladies and gentlemen. we're going to get into more of that in a moment as we officially get started here. Welcome into the program. It is the Finally Friday edition. Don't forget, I'll be working most of the day today. So we've got this one. I'll be with you at a little bit after probably 1, since we got a late start my time, so a little bit after 2. Then I'll be back for those of you that live on the East Coast. And then be back at 3 o'clock for the weekend news roundup. Then later tonight, He Said, She Said with the lovely Aggie Regan at 8:30. But without further delay, because there's way too much to talk about and not enough time to talk about it in, we're going to get things started here. So hang on. And I'm going to have to do my manual script because my other idea didn't work. And by script, I mean notes, not real script, but it's what my producer buddy calls it. So we're going to back up here for a second because I have a manual version up here while he's trying to put my not online version together so I don't have to keep changing screens, but it's all right. It'll take me a second. God, I forgot how long these things are when we have so much to talk about. So many notes, so little time. Am I really just now an hour 2? So yeah, I don't actually do full scripts because that's something that's always kind of bothered me. But I do usually try to make sure that I have some guardrails in place. So hang on. Okay. All right, so it's Friday, and apparently the news cycle decided to hand us a constitutional brawl, which we're going to be probably spending a lot of time talking about today, because there's some stuff you guys may not know, because I didn't find out until this all blew up. Then, of course, there was that little foreign policy flare-up that happened yesterday. According to Donald Trump, the ceasefire still holds. I think it's about time we just admit that there isn't a ceasefire and that these people aren't actually acting in good faith, but I'm not POTUS. There was also a UFO file dump that involved NASA, Apollo astronauts, and lots of weird little dots all over the moon, because normal Fridays have apparently been discontinued until further notice. Today, we have 3 big stories, and somehow they actually fit together, which is interesting when that happens. Virginia politicians, they decided to test whether they could sell a partisan redistricting play under the label of restoring fairness. Iran tested whether an American ceasefire actually means anything, and the federal government decided to release UFO files in the most government way possible, vague enough to be mysterious, official enough to be annoying, and late enough in the week that everybody with a corkboard and red string just lost their weekend. So we're going to start in Virginia because this one is too good to bury. The Virginia Supreme Court struck down the redistricting amendment, and the headline does not really do it justice, because here's the part that you need to know. The left is already screaming about how MAGA is destroying democracy in Virginia. The part they're not telling you, this was a Democratic Supreme Court in Virginia that struck this down. So that entire narrative goes down in flames, which is, again, part of the reason why you've got this guy right here. Again, this is live shot from Hakeem Jeffrey's office. We're going to check in with him routinely throughout the day just to see if this ever stops. To the guy who helped me set up the camera, at some point you might want to hand him a tissue. Just saying. I mean, I don't really care, but you might. All right, so yeah, so anyway, so yeah, the thing about this is they're already trying to spin it. This is all MAGA's fault. This is Trump's fault. The MAGA's destroying democracy. It was a Democratic-led SCOVA, that said no. So again, they struck it down because if you just saw the quick version, you might think court blocks voter-approved redistricting plan, and that is actually where the left is going to be hanging everything today. And that is actually technically part of it, but it misses the entire story because the real story here is the process. The court said the General Assembly violated Article 12, Section 1 of the Virginia Constitution, and because that constitutional violation infected the entire process, the court said it incurably taints. Yes, I said taint. I know. Rules. Damn rules.
Giggity giggity. Giggity goo.
Damn rules. Anyway, so that incurably basically made the entire thing in legal terms if this was like a court case, an actual like criminal court case, would be considered fruit of the poison tree. So the referendum vote it gets tossed and it nullifies the legal effect. That's the ball game, folks. This was not the court saying you may never redistrict. It was not the court saying voters don't matter. It was the court saying Republicans win, Democrats lose, and to this guy again, I say suck it. Sorry, I'm going to be having a little bit of fun with this today, so I may actually get annoying. I'm going to be honest. I usually do my best to try to avoid victory laps, but there's a reason I'm taking one so hard today, and I'm going to put it on the screen in a second. Because does anybody remember when the guy who's currently bawling on his couch said this? Hang on, I didn't do it right. But it'll get fixed. Hang on, I just had to make sure I found it. Okay, but yeah, so remember, if there's ever any lags, it's because I'm my own producer too. For the most part, I have a digital friend who helps me with the notes and the show prep now, but everything else is still me. I'm waiting till the day AI gets smart enough that I can write a producer agent. But all that stuff's expensive, and I don't make enough money to do that yet. I'm working on that too. All right. So anyway, we've been talking about the guy on the couch all morning. Does anybody remember when he said this? Because now I understand part of the reason why he was acting like such an ass here. And this is one of the reasons why I've been taking a victory lap all morning, even though I usually try to avoid them. But we'll get into why he's acting so much like Peter Pan after this.
Our message to Florida Republicans is F around and find out. If they go down the road of a DeSantis dummy mander, the Florida Republicans are going to find themselves in the same situation as Texas Republicans, who are on the run right now. Our message to
So they're on the run right now, huh? Is this you, Broseph? This you? Because I'm pretty sure this is you right now. But here's the reason why, and I said this once I found out, because I didn't even know this. First of all, I still think it's weird that politicians can actually have their own political action committees, because that's nothing but a fundraising tool. I think somebody probably needs to look into that. Because, in case you haven't missed it, the left uses the phrase political fundraising for money laundering. So I think we probably really need to look into that. Just a suggestion. But here's the thing. So this whole thing cost Democrats somewhere in the neighborhood of between $70 and $80 million. Guess where about half of that came from? This guy, which is why he's crying right now. Because here's the thing. And I know, because I was pissed too. At the time, I was pissed. Because the Republicans spent almost nothing to block that redistricting ploy. And I'm not trying to give them any more credit than they deserve, because in my opinion, they got lucky. Yes, they should take this moment, enjoy it, because even though it basically got handed to you through no action of your own, it is still a moment where you get to enjoy the Democratic Party getting egg all over their face. You're watching Gavin Newsom have a meltdown right now. The guy who says that Republicans and MAGA are destroying the country seems to have zero self-awareness as to what he's done to California. So there's that. And on top of everything else, that guy who I keep showing the crying on the couch lost about anywhere between 35 to probably $38 million in this. So that's one of the reasons why he was being a douche. And he really was being a douche. And again, it wasn't the court saying voters don't matter. It was the court saying, hey, y'all did this wrong and you need to get your ish together. And here's the thing. This is the funniest part about all this when you think about it. When you think about it, this is the funniest part of all of it. Because you know what made this entire thing unconstitutional? Which is really funny when you think about it. It is the amount of time required for Virginia's mail-in voting, because it shrunk. It basically put itself too close into the window for it to be a legal election. So the very same system the Democrats have been using to, shall we say, tilt elections because I have to be careful on the YouTubes. But yeah, and this kind of like, remember that part in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan where Spock says, "If minutes were days, this would." Yeah. So just remember, every time I say the word tilt, I'm saying STEAL because this is exactly what they did, and they have done it everywhere they possibly could. And while they are screaming and yelling about the fact that, oh my God, it's Jim Crow and it's the Confederacy all over again, and we don't know what to do. Well, of course you don't know what to do, because Republicans are finally playing by the same rules that you've played by for decades now. Anybody looked at the maps in the Northeast? Once you get north of New York, there's like blue hell. There's like 30-40% Republican participation in most elections in that region, and there's no Republican seats, none. And even in Maine, where you manage to land one, you might as well not have one. And yeah, anyway. So, but seriously though, it's kind of exactly what we've been talking about today. Hang on, I just realized I thought that was, sorry. I'm fighting with my computer again, don't mind me. No, it's already saved. I don't need you to save it again. Okay, there we go. That's the one I was looking for. Okay, so anyway. So this shouldn't be a radical position, but apparently in modern politics, follow the actual law now counts as extreme if the laws block a power play on your side. Here's the part that makes this so funny. The court describes the current congressional map as a 6-5 split between the two major parties. The proposed new map tied to this amendment was described by the court as a highly partisan gerrymandered map expected to produce a 10-1 split. Now, I'm just a simple radio guy, but when you take a 6-5 split map and try to turn it into 10-1, I'm going to need you to stop calling that restoring fairness. And yes, that was the language on the actual ballot. The ballot asked voters whether they wanted to amend the Constitution to allow the General Assembly to temporarily adopt new congressional districts to restore fairness in upcoming elections. Restore fairness. That's the kind of phrase that should make every voter reach for their wallet and yeah, and I was going to say something even worse, but I think I'm going to leave it there. Their calculator and review the fine print, because the practical result was not some beautiful neutral angels singing over civics class reform. The practical result was a map that could have taken a state with a roughly competitive delegation and turned it into something closer to a 10-1 partisan split. And again, here's the thing. And I don't know if the VA Supreme Court used this in their determination or not, but the irony is, if you look at the vote as it came in on the night that it came in, it really was kind of a 6-5 situation. So it's kind of like the courts went, maybe if this had passed 10-1, maybe we could see where you were trying to go with this, but it didn't, because it passed closer to the margins that we have listed. But even if that wasn't the case, the problem is, again, they violated Virginia Constitution. And the irony is, it was their own BS that hoisted them on their own petard. So again, Rep. Jeffries, I don't know how much of a slush fund you have in that pack, but I'm pretty sure I know why you're crying on your couch today. Because funny thing is, as far as if anybody in the chat has seen him go off on this yet, please let me know, because I've been looking. I've been waiting. I think all the Democrats are on, probably in a room somewhere, and everybody's taking their belts and shoelaces. So fairness is apparently when 51% of the voters get 91% of the seats. So again, 51-49. That's last time I did math. That's kind of 6-5, is it not? That's not fairness. That's math wearing a campaign button. And this is why language matters. Politicians almost never say, hey, we would like to rig the map to help ourselves. They say fairness. They say democracy. They say reform. They say protecting representation, which is why I didn't really get mad when Donald Trump went to Texas and said, hey, I need 5 more Republican votes because this shit's nuts. But here's the thing that nobody talks about. The only reason Texas did what they did wasn't necessarily, well, part of it was because Donald Trump asked, which is why everybody else is now following suit, especially now that he slid through Indiana like the Grim Reaper, taking seats with him as he went. But it's this. Nobody talks about this part. Texas tried to do their redistricting under the Biden administration, and the Biden administration stopped them. So that's why this became so important and became like a, oh my God, this is unprecedented to do this before the census and blah, blah. They tried to do it the way they're supposed to do it. Biden's administration said no, which is weird to me because I didn't really think they would have the authority to do that, but that's what happened. But again, this this was, Donald Trump being quite honest with Texas, be like, hey, we need 5 more seats. And then Florida was like, put us in, coach. We want to play too. And then Hakeem Jeffries was like, if you do this, FAFO. And I'm over here going, FAFO, because I hate. I go, okay, seriously. I really try not to hate politicians. But when they've been as smug as that guy has been, look, here's the fine print of all of this. He is willing to do whatever it takes, cross any line to become Speaker of the House. And if I was a Democrat, I would be terrified to let that man become that. But then again, and the problem is, if he keeps racking up the L's, they're not going to like him very much longer either, because we've got lots of, even though I haven't found anything from Jeffries yet, and I'll be checking when we go to the music break here in a little bit, which honestly is supposed to be right about now, but we'll probably finish this up first. So this was not democracy being overturned. This was process being enforced. This was a rule of law. The court's problem was that this thing got pushed after early voting had already started. In other words, the election that was supposed to serve as a constitutional checkpoint was already underway. And now the reverse has happened in Louisiana, because we're going to talk about this today too, because one of the SCOTUS justices threw the other ones under the bus, because KJB and all, or KBJ and all the other ones have been, lamenting this Louisiana decision. And and I believe it was Alito. It might have been Thomas. I don't have the notes in front of me. But one of them threw them under the bus and was like, hey, it's not our fault. We had to make this decision so late. We decided this 7 months ago. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. The Democrats have been using every tool in their toolbox, every weapon in their arsenal to slow walk everything, including Supreme Court decisions. And that's given the Democrats at least a little bit of life, because now Louisiana just ended their election in the middle of it. Well, they have to, because those maps are now illegal. And here's the thing. Since that has happened in almost every single southern state, guess what that does? That makes all of them illegal, because there's now proof that you guys were making voter plantations. Anybody figured this out yet? The same party that was funding the Democrats in the 1860s was just caught funding them in 2026. The same party putting blacks on plantations in the 1860s is making voter plantations, and has been since the late 60s, early 70s. And that's what the court says you can't do anymore. Look, voluntary segregation is one thing. People voting with their feet, moving to certain places because that's where they feel most comfortable, that's one thing. When the government draws a line around you and says, this is where you get representation, what do you think actually happens there? That makes those people feel like they don't have the ability to move, because the left has made them feel like they don't have any control over anything unless they live in that area, because that's the only way they're going to have representation. And you know how I know that's true? Some of the very same language that SCOTUS used to strike this down was argued by an ACLU attorney during the Louisiana ruling. And she said, a female of color said, that we need these specialized districts because white Democrats don't vote for black Democrats. In other words, the call's coming from inside the House. Anyway, but they didn't lose because they tried to redistrict. They lost because they tried to fast track a constitutional rewrite after the election had already started. And again, I'm not going to say this because it matters. Both parties play, and again, I am going to say this because it does matter. Both parties play redistricting games all the time. Republicans do it, Democrats do it. Up until now, the Democrats have just done it better. I don't know if that's going to be the case anymore. Everybody in politics likes a map that helps them. That is why the process matters. And that's why we have guardrails in place. The difference here is that Virginia voters had already created a redistricting commission framework all the way back in 2020 to get away from the kind of partisan supposed map making. Then, when the incentives changed, the politicians came back and said, well, actually, let us temporarily suspend that system so we can restore the fairness. Yes. Anytime politicians ask you if you want to restore fairness, check your wallet and your watch. Make sure it's still there. Anyway. All right. So we are really, really long. We're going to go ahead and take a music break. When we come back, though, we have more to talk about. So, all right. Well, actually, before we go to the music break, let's check on this guy. Still crying? Yep, still crying. All right. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
They tried to quench the fire, drown it all in chains, tried to break our will and wash away our names. But every spark they buried only fed the flame. Now the cry of freedom's roaring through the rain. Hear the cry of freedom on the winds of change. Every voice united, breaking every chain. We were born to stand and never bow again.
And welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. I warned you it was going to be a busy Friday. We haven't even scratched the surface of my notes, and we're already close to halfway through. I forgot we got a little bit of a late start, but I took the breaks kind of sorta on time. I guess we didn't get as late of a start as I thought, though. About 2 minutes off. Anyway, so we're back. We're live, and as promised, remember this guy? Remember this guy? Remember? Because Pepperidge Farm remembers. Yeah. So apparently, he is so distraught that all he could do was put together this right here. Well, that didn't work. I was trying to do them together, so I'll have to fix that in a minute. Usually, it lets me combine things now, and I'm still trying to figure that part out. So hang on. But let's embiggen this, as my good friend BZ says, which helps me not have to hit that giggity button as often. This is from the guy who's currently curled up in the fetal position, probably crawling or crying on the couch in his office. Hakeem Jeffries, Democratic leader, over 3 million. Hang on. Do I have any? No, I really need to put together some sad music for moments like this. I don't have any, and I don't want to do any copyright violations. I know we have music rights, but it's a pain. Anyway, so over 3 million Virginia citizens cast their votes in a free and fair election. Just imagine that, sad violins playing in the background while I'm reading this. Yet, the state Supreme Court has chosen to invalidate their voice, disenfranchise them, and violate their due process rights. The decision to overturn an entire election is an unprecedented and undemocratic action that cannot stand. MAGA Republicans have adopted voter suppression as a strategy, as also evidenced by the far-right extremist on the Supreme Court gutting the Voting Rights Act to open the door to a Jim Crow-like attack. Sorry, had to be done that way. On black representation across the American South. We are exploring all options to overturn this shocking decision. This is a shocked face, I promise. Democrats will win in November, and so we can help rescue this nation from the extremism being unleashed by Donald Trump and the Republicans. Our fight is not over. We are just getting started. Just getting started. Yeah, that's him over there in the corner up there. Yeah, that's him. That's him. Crying like the little. See, I knew I'd figure it out eventually. Crying like the little biatch that he is. That's him up there in that corner. So yeah. We're just gonna leave that like that for a minute, I think, just because I just want that side by side while I say this. Again, I do everything I can to avoid victory laps, but after the whole FAFO thing that you did after you thought your 37 million dollars probably helped push this thing over the edge. I hope you enjoy the schadenfreude that you have unleashed, sir, because I'm sure your mentions are going to be really, really fun today, and I have already tried to be part of them. I doubt you'll ever see it, but that's okay too. All right, so let's fix this because I don't need this anymore. We can make that go away, and let's get that back to that. All right, so let's keep going. Okay, so again, I know I'm having way too much fun with this today. And I will admit, I have so much notes and so many things going on. We may actually extend the show a little bit unless I can find a way to make up some time. So anyway, back to this. So again, because this is what happens when democracy cosplay runs into constitutional procedure. That's what we're looking at today, because that's exactly what's happened. Because the Democrats keep telling you they are fighting for the rule of law, and yet they don't seem to grasp the concept when a Democratic majority says, hey, y'all didn't do this right, so come back and try again later. So that leads us into the next piece that we're going to be talking about, because the same political pattern does not stop at the water's edge. In Virginia, politicians tried to sell process breaking as fairness. Across the pond, British voters just sent their own message to the governing class. And this is kind of the point that I've been getting at for a while. It's not just MAGA anymore. There are people that are tired of the establishment global elites, and they're doing what they can to try to clean house everywhere. Now, again, I'm going to stand by this. I think it may be too late for the UK. This gives me a bit of hope, though, and I don't know if you have seen this. We'll get into the Iran stuff later, but before we get into that, I want to take one kind of a step towards the whole international stuff and take a softer step overseas, because what happened in Britain fits this same frame that we've been talking about today. The UK had a major round of local and regional elections, and the early results show a rough night for Prime Minister Keir Starmer's Labour Party, while Reform UK made major gains. That is actually from the Guardian's election coverage, just so you know where I'm pulling this from. Now, I am not pretending British local elections maps perfectly. I'm sorry, hang on. So I'm not pretending the British local elections map perfectly fits onto the American political system. Different system, different parties, different issues. But the mood, they're probably feeling a lot like I feel today for the folks that were on the winning side. So to me, that kind of feels familiar. Voters feel ignored. They feel lectured to. They feel like the political class keeps using polished language to explain why the people are wrong about everything in their own lives. And eventually, when people feel ignored long enough, they don't file a complaint. Not in the way you think, because they realize that doesn't go anywhere but to the establishment, so they start voting against it. That is what populist backlash looks like. And remember, to the political class, populism is a bad word. It does not always arrive neatly. It doesn't always arrive through the party the establishment wants, but it does usually arrive. And when it arrives, as has kind of been a recurring theme this week, the bill usually comes due. And the political class always acts stunned when they get handed that bill. They spend years telling voters that concerns are dangerous, backwards, hateful, or even unsophisticated. Then the voters find another vehicle for those concerns, and suddenly everyone wants to write think pieces about the collapse of trust. Well, trust doesn't collapse by accident, and it doesn't collapse on its own. It collapses when people feel the rules are not being applied honestly. It collapses when leaders use nice words to cover ugly outcomes. It collapses when the people in charge stop listening and start managing public opinion instead. This is the bridge from Virginia to Britain and other places in the country too, as far as America, because part of the reason we don't trust anything anymore is not only are we finding out that our politicians are lying to us, we're finding out that the political class is stealing from us and taking that money and shifting it to people that come in from overseas and using the very system that they say is designed to protect us and make sure that we're okay to do it. And I think that may be part of what's driving Britain's anger as well. So again, none of this happens by accident. In Virginia, the court said you cannot call a partisan power play restore fairness and skip the constitutional process. In Britain, voters seem to be saying you cannot keep governing like the public is a problem to be managed and then act shocked when the public decides to manage you back. And so before we move from ballots to battleships, let me give you one quick piece of good economic news, but according to the left, it's really not, because as always, they move the goalpost. The April jobs report is out, and the economy added a whopping 115,000 jobs. And I say whopping because everybody seems to forget that one of the reasons the job numbers looked so impressive over the last, and I'm going to say this even happened a lot during Trump's last term, was because government jobs, public sector jobs, were outpacing private sector jobs. And what little bit of private sector growth there was going to people that shouldn't even be here in the first place. So, yes, 115,000 jobs doesn't sound impressive until you realize that one, it beat expectations. The employment rate stayed at 4.3%, which is they're pretty close to where they want it. And wages were up a total of 3.6% over the year. March was also revised up. Now, when is the last time you heard me say this? March was actually revised up to 185,000 jobs. Remember how weak they said the March jobs report was? So between March and April, we've added right at 200,000 jobs. And again, the vast majority of those are private sector, and they're going to either American born or American naturalized citizens, which means more money coming back into our economy, not going overseas. Now, this doesn't mean every family is suddenly fine because, the gas prices still suck, but we're going to get into that in a minute too. It doesn't mean groceries are cheap, but they are trying to get cheaper. It doesn't mean insurance is affordable, but here's the thing with insurance. Once you make it mandatory, they decide to do whatever the hell they want to do, and there's not much you can do because there isn't in some cases, there isn't a lot of competition, especially with medical insurance. And the problem is, even with car insurance, because they have allowed interstate competition there, now that they can check your credit score, even though legally they're not supposed to be able to do that, some of you, and thanks to my divorce a few years ago, still me too, get raked over the coals. I went from paying like $80 a month to, I don't even want to say. Anyway. But it's because they know you've got to have it. So, again, groceries aren't necessarily cheap, but they are getting cheaper. Insurance is definitely not as affordable as it once was. And gas prices, those are stinging right now. Even yesterday, because I was out running errands and I was like, I'm too tired to stop here. So I'm just going to stop by the house. And which for me, I live in the middle of nowhere. So by the house is still almost 12 miles away. But because I live in the middle of nowhere, I should have stopped about 8 miles earlier because I would have saved about 60 cents a gallon. But I was tired and I didn't care. But here's the thing. While you're in, look, I'm not saying that I like these gas prices. Please do not misunderstand me because I do not. But I understand why we're paying more for gas. And while you're listening to the left scream and yell about, oh my God, is this what you voted for? You know what I voted for? My kids not having to worry about glowing in the dark. That's what I voted for. You know what I voted for? My grandkids not having to worry about glowing in the dark. What is that old adage? If there has to be war, let it be in my time so my children and my grandchildren can know peace. That's where I'm at right now because we have watched Iran run roughshod over the entire world since 1979. You know the brand of Islam everybody hates? Guess who that is? Guess who's at the head of it? That's Iran. You want to talk to me about there being peaceful Muslims? You know how we can find out for sure if there are peaceful Muslims? Get rid of the assholes that are agitating the Muslims. Guess who those people are? Iran. Their fingers are all over everything that we have ever tried to stop when it comes to Islam. All of it. They are there. Their tendrils are there. Their agents are there. Hezbollah, which is being fought in Lebanon by Israel right now. Guess what? The reason Iran keeps saying we're not coming back to the table until you guys stop whacking Hezbollah is because that's one of their groups. Guess what? There is not an extremist Muslim group that does not have ties to Iran. These are the last people we should be allowing to have a nuclear weapon. And I have been saying that almost as long as Donald Trump has been saying it. He's been saying it a little bit longer because I wasn't publicly active as long as he's been publicly active. But I have been saying this for as long as this has been on our radar. Everybody keeps talking about the Obama deal and how Donald Trump is basically trying to reconstitute the Obama deal. Do you know there's part of this Obama deal that almost nobody's talking about that would have allowed them to have weapons-grade nuclear material by the end of 2026? You know why? Because Barack Obama was in office from 2009 to 2016. So he wouldn't have cared if they had nukes by 2026 because he's 10 years down the road by now. You know who should care? Us, because again, I don't want my kids or my grandkids glowing in the dark. This is something, and I'm going to say this again, this should have been addressed on January 21st, 1981, assuming the swearing dates were the same as they are now. I haven't checked the math because I don't remember if it ever moved. But it wasn't, because as soon as Ronnie Reagan got in office, Iran was like, maybe we should let go of these hostages. You know what? That was a good first step. And we should have celebrated that. And then we should have said, okay, so now what's going to happen is you're either going to turn the country back over to the people that you overthrew, or we're going to come in and do it for you. But that's where Donald Trump is right now. And if you listen to BZ's show last night, he and I don't really go after Trump that much anymore, but this is an area where I think he has gotten it wrong, because and trust me, he wrote an entire book about it, The Art of the Deal. He's the guy who always wants to negotiate. You cannot negotiate with dishonorable people. The Iranian government are dishonorable people. I did not say Iranians are dishonorable people. I said the Iranian government and what's left of it are dishonorable people. The Iranian military and what's left of it are dishonorable people, because they, just like the Democrats, are willing to do whatever it takes, say whatever it takes, throw anybody under the bus that it takes to be able to hold on to power. And unless or until he comes to terms with that, we're in trouble. So, again, we'll get into more of that here in a minute, because we're about to have to take the break. Sorry, I kind of jumped all over the place there, but there was a thread running through my brain, so I had to chase it. So back to this, the jobs numbers. So this does mean the labor market is showing more resilience than a lot of experts expected, and that's the thing, because remember, according to the experts, we were gonna basically be bankrupt by now. I mean, the country kind of still is, but you know what I mean. And that is the political problem for as my good friend Al likes to say, hang on, let me do this right. The doom crowd. Yeah, sorry, Al, didn't mean to steal your thing, but it fit. But that's the thing for the doom and gloom crowd. They keep needing the economy to collapse so that they can call the Trump agenda a failure. And then the numbers come in better than expected. And then when those numbers come in better than expected, they move the goalpost. Well, that 115,000 jobs, that just basically means that we're treading water. It's good enough that unemployment didn't go up, but it isn't good enough to do anything else. But here's the thing. That does not mean we spike the football. It means we note the scoreboard, because this isn't a spike the football moment. This is just you guys keep saying that we're going to suck wind, and we keep proving to you that we're not. And let's not forget the story of the tortoise and the hare. Slow and steady is good, especially when you're dealing with the American economy. The scoreboard says 115,000 jobs added, unemployment steady, wages still moving up. And that's the most important part. Wages still moving up. Almost 4%. That's actually kind of unheard of, especially lately. And the economy's not cooperating with the people rooting for bad news. And I don't understand that part either. I know I keep going off on tangents today, but I don't really understand that either, because I don't really understand how it is that we have an entire half of the country that is rooting for us to fail. Look, again, I'm going to say this again. The guy at the top of the ticket, the guy running the country, has not always got my flavor or my color banner. But I never root for him to fail. It's what moved me from the Never Trump column to, I guess I can't really say never anymore, because they actually elected him. And then I watched him do the job. And again, from our side, from 2016 to 2020, we had, I guess for me, closer to 2017 to 2019-ish, we had an entire group of our folks, including me still, who was like, yeah, I'm going to try. And then our good friend, the Amish attorney, coined the phrase, Donald Trump is the Leslie Nielsen of presidents, because we don't know if he actually knows what he's doing, but everything he tries to do actually works. And sometimes it kind of seems like he backed into it sideways and still managed to pull it off. And then I started getting raises. Remember, I worked for the state at the time. I started in 2015. I got one raise after I passed my probationary period. Hadn't seen a raise until 2017. And there was no indication that we were going to be getting one anytime soon. And then the economy started ticking up, and they're like, hey, we've got money for raises. Now, none of them were great. It's not like I went from making like $40,000 a year to $60,000 a year overnight or anything. But while Trump was in office the first time, not only did I get one raise, I got a total of 4 separate raises for the entire pretty much 4-year term that he was in office, which was unheard of because, again, worked for the state at the time. Was on loan from the University of Oklahoma to the Oklahoma Department of Human Services Child Support Division through a contract that they have. Don't even get me started on that because I had no idea how incestuous the relationship was between the state and state schools until I started working there. And that just seems really weird. All right, so we're going to take the break because we're pretty much at the bottom of the hour, so we might as well take it now. Since we've got an extra few minutes, I'm going to go ahead and do the military tribute now because that should put us back on time. And when we come back, kind of fitting anyway, we'll take the military tribute break and then come back and talk about Iran a little bit more. My name's Rick Robinson. This is the Finally Friday edition of The Rick Robinson Show. And I hope every single one of you is having a wonderful, great, amazing Friday. And I hope you are enjoying all of the schadenfreude that has come to pass today as much as I am, and we may or may not get back around to some of that. But even if we don't right now, I'm sure it will come up during the weekend news roundup. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Before the oath was spoken out loud, before you stood apart from the crowd, there was a moment, quiet and clear, when you chose to stand while others stayed here. You raised your hand with a steady resolve, knowing some nights don't end when the mission's done. Not for glory, not for the pay, but for something worth more than walking away.
Only hold the line.
They carried the weight where the roads ran long, through dust and heat
When the days went on,
holding ground mile after mile, doing the work that rarely drew a smile. They stood their post when relief ran late, shoulders squared under the pull of fate.
not chasing headlines, not asking why, just staying put when others pass by. We stand and watch in different ways, different nights, the same long days. One old spoken carried through, wherever duty calls us to.
We stand watch over the deep. They kept their watch where the water turns black, miles from shore with no quick way back, measuring time by the rise and the fall, answering duty's unrelenting call. Through silent hours and endless seas, they stood their post in the cold night breeze, guarding the lanes the world depends on, so others slept and the light stayed on. We stand the watch in different ways, different nights, the same long days. One old spoken carried through, wherever duty calls us to. Simplify, Marine.
We go where we're sent. We go where we're sent.
They moved as one when the moment came, side by side through fire and rain. First to step where the ground was thin, not for the odds but for the ones beside them.
Trust was earned in the hard way through, Every promise carried by the few. No turning back once the line was crossed.
They stood shoulder to shoulder as brothers,
never counting the cost. We stand the watch in different ways, different nights, the same long day. One oath spoken, carried through, wherever duty calls us to.
Air Force,
The sky is our domain.
Air Force.
The sky is our domain.
They held their focus where seconds seem eternal, soaring between clouds and blue. Every movement measured and true, knowing what one clean moment could do.
They watch the whole while guarding the small. Every mission tied to a larger call. Calm under pressure, steady and clear, keeping the promise from far overhead.
Space Force,
We guard the dark without
they
faith,
keep their vigil
where silence reigns,
beyond the weather,
beyond the rain.
watching the paths that the world relies on, long before the warning lights come on.
Cloud, no banners, no clear view.
Just constant care in a canvas full of stars,
Standing the watch through the endless night, guarding the systems that keep us in light.
while the watch is kept and the lines hold fast. There are lives still moving on the other side of that.
Empty chairs and quiet phones, long goodbyes that don't feel done.
Names we carry but never say, folded flags and debts we pay. Every service, every scar reaches farther than the uniform ever could.
Coast Guard, we come when it matters most.
They launch into storms when hope feels thin. Turning back isn't an option then. Hands reach out where the waters rise, pulling lives back from the edge of time. No headlines waiting when the call is done, just breathing restored and another life won. Every rescue, every return, a quiet promise kept in the worst conditions.
We stand the watch in different ways, different nights, the same long day. One oath spoken, carried through, wherever duty calls us to.
For the ones who raise the right hand high,
Swore the oath and didn't ask us why.
for the nights you stood where freedom cost.
We remember, we honor, we won't forget the loss.
From the ground to the sea to the open sky, to the guardians above where the silent stars fly. Every branch, every badge, every battle scar, because you stood.
We live free.
Lord, we know.
We stand here freely.
Because others stood before us. We accept the weight of what was given and the cost that came with it. We promise to remember those who serve, those who stand watch still, and those who never came home.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLR.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Pardon me, technical difficulties because some of the volume controls go away depending on the size of this thing. So, yeah, anyway, I know I should be hitting the giggity button for that one, but we're not live yet technically, so I'm not.
Alarm clock barking like it's got a vendetta. Coffee tastes like bad decisions I ain't made yet. Boss man talking about we got her, and that means me, brother. Afraid I got a terminal case of the I don't want us. Mind checked out, heart ain't in the building. That second hand's crawling like it hates my guts. The man treating rich like it's a sin. Even God took a beat. So suck it. Thank God it's Friday, punching out loud. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. Bill still waiting, but tonight I don't care. Cold beer sermon and a barstool prayer. Take this job and shove it, I quit. Till Monday, cause tonight I'm free. Yeah, work and wait. It ain't owning me. So raise them up high. Let the whistle blow. Thank God it's Friday. That's all I know.
And welcome into the It's Finally Friday edition of the Rick Robinson Show. And I know some of you are mad at me because I keep cutting that one short today, but it's because we've got so much to get through and so little time. Plus, it's thank God it's Friday, unless you're a Democrat today. Democrats are having a no good, horrible, terrible, very bad day. And the last couple of weeks have not been good for them. And they don't know what to do. I had this conversation with somebody on X during the break, and they were talking about how I pointed out yesterday that the only reason the left is so mad about all this stuff is because they understand that in their own party, white voters don't vote for black people. And you know how I know? Because an ACLU attorney said said the quiet part out loud during the SCOTUS arguments in the Louisiana case that led to a lot of this stuff. And they're like, well, no, it means that they feel like they should. I'm like, no, see, I thought that too. And then I heard an ACLU attorney who happened to be a female of color saying that they're admitting that, white Democrats don't vote for black Democrats. So that's just the real reason I bring that up before we move into the Iran stuff is because that's just a reminder. The racist call is coming from inside the house while they keep saying that it's us. So, of course, as we move into Iran, according to POTUS, we have a ceasefire. Iran doesn't really seem to think so, though. So we did just talk about Virginia testing constitutional guardrails, UK voters testing and getting sick of political elites, and a jobs report that gives us at least a little economic good news. But now we've got to move from ballots and paychecks to battleships. CENTCOM says U.S. Navy guided missile destroyers were transiting the Strait of Hormuz to the Gulf of Oman on May 7th when Iranian forces launched multiple missiles, drones, and small boats at them. The destroyers were the USS Truxtun, the USS Rafael Peralta, and the USS Mason. CENTCOM said no U.S. assets were struck, and U.S. forces responded with self-defense strikes. That was according to both U.S. Central Command as well as Reuters. Now, we got to stop right there for a second. This is not a diplomatic misunderstanding. This is not somebody bumping elbows at a buffet table. Missiles, drones, and small boats aimed at U.S. warships in one of the most important waterways in the world is not a clerical error. This is a cock block when we start talking about the supposed ceasefire. Iran launched U.S. ships were targeted. Iran launched U.S. ships were targeted. No U.S. assets were hit. America responded in self-defense. And this is where the language matters. CENTCOM says the United States does not seek escalation. My question is, why not? But remains ready to protect American forces. That is exactly the line that a lot of folks seem to want America to hold. I don't happen to be one of them, though. And again, I wasn't looking for a bigger war. The problem is Iran keeps acting as if they can give us a bigger war. Not to sound like a dick for a second, but at this point, I am ready for the weeping and lamentations of your women, because that's how we're going to shut them up. That's the only way we're going to shut them up. We have to get them to the point where they are begging us for a ceasefire, because right now, no matter how we frame it, and again, this goes back to, Western civilization trying to act like Middle Eastern civilizations are basically the same, and they're not when you have the warlords in control, and that's what Iran has become, is a bunch of clerics that are technically warlords running the region. And here's the problem with that. Anytime we really want to talk, all they see is weakness. So you're emboldening them. And I've said this before. So here's the problem. A ceasefire that only one side respects is not peace. It is target practice with a side of paperwork. And that's the danger here. Iran knows how to play this game. They've been playing it all the time. They've been playing it for a long time. Push the line, test the response. Fire off enough hardware to see what America is willing to tolerate, then claim victimhood the moment America hits back. That's not new. That's been their playbook for the entire time that the regime took over the area. They provoke, they deny, they accuse, they bargain, they regroup, and then they do it again. So the first point is simple. America does not need to escalate because they've already done it. And also, America doesn't need to apologize for defending our own people. That's not warmongering, that's deterrence. So we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into this before we get into some of the funner stuff for Friday. I mean, I've of course, been having a little fun at Jeffrey's expense throughout the day, but we've got some other fun stuff too. We've got some We've got the UFO files. I've been doing a little scraping and digging there. We'll get into that later. So let's widen it out a bit because the Strait of Hormuz is one of those pieces a lot of people hear about, but not everybody stops to think about why it matters. The Strait of Hormuz is not just water on a map, it's one of the arteries of our now global economy. Everybody remember that idea they had about war after World War II to tie all the world's economies together? Now, here's the real reason that nobody tells you why Donald Trump keeps pausing. Because I hate to say it, but thanks to that interwoven economic web, we can't really bomb anybody back to the Stone Age anymore, especially when they're practically there already anyway, because it starts causing ripple effects through the rest of the world markets. So if that waterway gets threatened, energy markets react. You've seen that already. Shipping reacts. Allies react, enemies watch, and every actor in the region starts recalculating what America means when it says "do not cross that line," and that becomes the important part because now we're tiptoeing back towards the era of time in America where remember when Barack Obama talked about red lines and nobody really understood that he meant he was going to be drawing them with his daughter's, sand art. Yeah, we're starting to drift back that way again. That's the real issue here. Iran is not just testing ships. Iran is testing our credibility. How many times has Donald Trump gone to the cameras and said we should have a deal within a week? Iran scoffs and then starts taking pot shots. That is a direct hit to our credibility. They're testing whether ceasefire language means anything because they already know it does to us. So they're trying to see how long are we going to believe that we have one. They're testing whether American deterrence still has teeth. They should know that by now, but if they keep wanting to find out, we should just show them. They are testing whether they can create chaos, force a response, and then run for the cameras pretending to be the victim. And we shouldn't fall for it. It doesn't mean I'm cheering for war. But again, we didn't start this fight. When I say we, I mean people that are, my age, because we didn't make the decision in the 50s that started all this mess. The American leadership and the British leadership at the time did. This is our mess. I have never been a fan of Team America World Police other than the movie. I think it was hilarious. Just saying. Once I got old enough to understand it anyway. I'll be honest, it went over my head for a while. And I got a little bit older and I watched it again. I was like, okay, this is really pretty damn funny. But, so never really been a fan of Team America World Police. But again, this is our mess. Again, this is something that should have been taken care of a long time ago. This should have been addressed in 1981. They never should have been allowed to take root, take hold, and do all the things that they've been allowed to do. Because again, if you really want to talk about the bad actors when it comes to Islam, because everybody wants to tell me there are peaceful Muslims. Okay, so let's assume for the moment that is true, just for the sake of argument. We are letting the non-peaceful Muslims run an entire region and then do everything they can through proxies to destabilize that region and try to take us down with them. How much longer are we supposed to let them do that? So again, I'm not cheering for war. It doesn't mean we treat every provocation like the opening scene of World War III, or I guess in this case it would be World War XII, thanks to Ilhan Omar. It means we understand that peace is not maintained by pretending aggression didn't happen. Peace is maintained when the cost of aggression is clear. If Iran can fire missiles, launch drones, and then send the small boat fleet at American destroyers, and the world's response is, well, let's not make anybody mad, then you're not preserving peace. You're teaching Iran that the line is flexible. That one line that you tried to make clear to them, you cannot cross this line or else. And how many times have we seen Donald Trump use that language too? They have this amount of time to come to the table, and if they don't, then we're going to take care of it. He's now used that same line on Truth Social at least 3 or 4 different times that I can see. As a parent that raised children, that's a mistake. Because once it doesn't matter, even if it's something that you swore to your kids you were never going to do, once you draw that line, if you let them cross it, they own you. And they know it. They know it too. And so does Iran. And that's the problem, because we keep talking really, really tough. And, well, we think we're going to have a deal in the next few days. And then Iran does this. So the question is whether we as Americans want ourselves to have a credible voice when it comes to international policy. There's a difference between wanting a fight and refusing to be bullied. And too much of our foreign policy debate for the longest time pretends those are the same thing when they are not. If a U.S. destroyer is transiting an international seas passage and Iran decides to send missiles, drones, and small boats, America does not need to ask Twitter for permission to respond. I'm sorry, X. Credibility is the thread that ties this whole everything we've been talking about together. Sorry, my note said first hour because we haven't even finished my notes for the first hour yet, and we're already halfway through the second one. It's been that kind of day. Just saying. Again, credibility is the thread that ties all of this together. Virginia tests constitutional credibility, and Democrats got their hands slapped for it. Britain shows political credibility, taking a crack at the ballot box. Iran tests military credibility in open water. And before we get to the break, we're going to go ahead and transition now, because like I said, my notes aren't necessarily going to fit my entire outline for the day now, because I'm well off target with where I'm supposed to be by now based on my little notes and my outline to try to keep me on the rails. Anyway, speaking of rails, never mind. JD, if you're in the chat or listening, I know you just got that joke, but that's okay. So yes, there's another bit we're going to get to start the fun portion of the show. The federal government has started releasing UFO documents. NASA is in the mix. This includes Apollo 17. They apparently had some weird stuff going on near the moon. And yes, I checked for lizard people, so you don't have to. Spoiler alert, no official lizard people yet, which is exactly what the lizard people would want me to say. And here we go. So we've talked about Virginia. We've talked about the UK. We've talked about jobs. We've talked Iran. Now let's look up. And by up, I mean because apparently the federal government decided that Friday was the perfect time to release UFO files and tell America, here, you figure it out. The Pentagon has started releasing new UAP files, and the NASA angle is my Fun Friday piece here. One of the files involves a NASA photograph from the Apollo 17 mission in 1972, showing 3 dots in a triangular formation. Reporting on the release says the Pentagon caption states there is no consensus about the anomaly, while preliminary analysis suggests it could, in fact, be a physical object. There are also Apollo 17 transcript fragments getting attention. Reporting on the release says astronaut Ronald Evans described bright particles or fragments drifting by as the spacecraft maneuvered, and the crew compared some of what they were seeing to a fireworks display. Now, let me be very clear. We're not confirming aliens here. I know we have one on staff, but I'm required to tell you. I know that ruins the bumper sticker, but we're going to be responsible adults for at least the next few minutes. This is not the government saying, yes, little green men are real and they have been borrowing cattle since 1947. This is the government saying, here are unresolved files, here are images, here are transcripts, here are some Apollo weirdness on the side, and we don't really know. So since we don't have consensus, we're just going to let you figure it out, which honestly makes a lot of this even funnier. NASA gave us 3 dots over the moon, and the Pentagon said, yeah, we don't really know what that is. That is government speak for we have no idea, but please don't. Well, actually, no consensus. Sorry, I messed up my own joke because I did it out of order. The Pentagon said no consensus. So that is, in fact, government speak for the joke that I rushed. For we have absolutely no idea, but please don't start yelling Independence Day quotes at your neighbors. I mean, I guess you can. It's a free country. And this is why it's the perfect Friday material. It's weird enough to be fun, official enough to discuss, and vague enough that every person listening can pick their own level of conspiracy responsibility. The files don't prove aliens. They do prove that even the moon apparently has weird stuff in the background of old family photos. And honestly, that kind of tracks. You ever look at an old family picture and there's somebody in the background that nobody can identify? Now imagine that, but on the moon, and the background guy might be moving at orbital velocity. Again, not saying aliens, but I am saying if NASA has to explain 3 dots over the moon, I'm listening. And I'm Dr. Fraser Crane. Just kidding. The other fun part is that this release is happening through official government channels, which means it immediately becomes less exciting and more suspicious at the same time. Only the federal government could release UFO files and somehow make the phrase preliminary analysis indicates it could be a physical object. Sounds rather boring, but terrifying at the same time. It could be a physical object. Thank you, government. That narrows it down to every object in the known universe. And yes, because somebody would ask, I checked the visible UFO dump material for lizard people. I looked for lizard, looked for reptilian. I looked for anything in the David Icke starter pack. Nothing official, which is what they would want you to think. So for now, Congress remains the closest thing we have to cold-blooded creatures in Washington. Or does it? Or does it? All right, so let's get into this real quick, and then we'll probably take the break. But here is where the UFO story actually connects to the serious stuff. This is about trust. When the government hides things for decades, releases things in weird batches, or says, we cannot tell you what it is, but we promise it's not that, people naturally stop trusting the official answer. Now, I have to stop right here because I don't know if it just, maybe it's because I, on some level, remembered those reports were going to come out today, but I have been rewatching some Star Trek fanfic stuff. And if you guys have not ever seen the Star Trek New Voyages Phase 2, you really should check it out. There aren't very many because, again, it was fanfic, but they did like 15, they did 10 full-length episodes, and then they did like 5 vignettes. One of the vignettes was kind of amazing and ties right into this because you remember the whole Watergate thing and everybody's like freaking out because there's parts of the tapes that were erased. Apparently, in the vignette, I'm just gonna tell you. You can go watch it if you want later. But there's a vignette where President Nixon is playing with Star Trek toys in the White House in '69. It was around the same time that we were doing the moon landing thing. And so he's imagining that he is captain of the Enterprise as he's playing with these toys. Well, he keeps calling, the Secret Service keeps catching him playing with the toys. And he's like, well, this can't get out. This can't get out. This is terrible. But you have to understand, these toys are so realistic and they're so much fun to play with and blah, blah, blah. So they keep erasing the parts of the surveillance tapes in the Oval Office, the audio surveillance where he's playing with toys. So there's all these tapes with gaps. And at the very end of the vignette, one of the Secret Service agents says, if you keep making us release or erase these portions of this tapes, this is going to start looking more and more suspicious. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting, fun little twist. Anyway, yes, I'm being a bit of a nerd today. But yeah, so again, this is kind of that trust thing, that we were just talking about. That's what hung Nixon. Now, there's all kinds of stuff, and I've gotten some stuff from a few sources that I'm still trying to suss out about what actually happened with Nixon. And when I know more, you will, because there's been a couple of folks that have tried to slip me things, and I'm not naming any names or anything yet because I'm still reviewing. But apparently there might have been more going on there than we think. And no, I don't mean the vignette that I just talked about was what actually happened. So when the government hides things for decades, releases things in weird batches, or says, we cannot tell you what it is, but we promise it's not that, people naturally stop trusting the official answer. And sometimes that skepticism is healthy. I would change sometimes to most times, honestly. The problem is when skepticism turns into a choose your own reality novel. So the responsible position is this: release the files, show the public what you can show, protect legitimate national security secrets where you must, but stop treating adults like children who cannot handle the fact that the sky occasionally contains some weirdness. Because if the files are boring, fine, let us see they are boring. If the files are weird, fine, let us see the weirdness. But do not tell the public nothing to see here and then quietly release Apollo moon dot photos on a Friday. That is how you make normal people buy corkboards. And before we bring the transparency conversation home to Oklahoma, let me give you one quick local morale booster. The Thunder are currently up 2-0 on the Lakers after a 125-107 win, and I do not want to overstate this, but any day Oklahoma City gets to make Los Angeles sad is a good day for me and for most Oklahomans, because why not? And honestly, it fits the theme better than it should, because whether it's politics, government, or basketball, the scoreboard matters. You can complain about the refs, you can argue about the process, you can spin the story, but eventually somebody looks at the numbers. And right now, the numbers say OKC 2, Lakers 0. So we are going to take the break. When we come back, we're going to go from fun scoreboard to the serious one, how Oklahoma measures transparency, due process, and whether state agencies are playing by rules the public can actually see. Back after the law enforcement tribute break. Stay tuned.
When the call comes in, somebody answers. Day or night, they're already moving. Calm voices, fast hands, doing the work while the rest of the world freezes. From a headset to a truck, from a badge to a door, they don't stop to count the cost. They step in when it matters. It's not about being seen, it's about being there. They're holding the line when the lines go dead, standing their ground when the world goes dark. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line through the fire, the flood. When everything falls, they don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing in the gap for us all. Before the sirens fade, before the scene is clear, someone's already making sense of the moment. Keeping people alive, keeping things from getting worse. Some run toward danger, some stay behind and hold it together. Different roles, same weight, same promise to show up. When everything's on the line, they're already there. They're holding the line when the lines go dead, standing their ground when the world goes dark. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line through the fire, the flood. When everything falls, they don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing in the gap for us all. This is service, this is sacrifice, this is how lives are saved. No spotlight, no applause, just showing up again and again. They're holding the line when the world goes dark. When everything's breaking, they hold their ground. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line. So we raise our voices for the ones who stand. Every voice, every badge, every helping hand. They don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing
following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
And welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Final segment of the It's Finally Friday edition. So let's take a quick look at that Rep. Jeffries cam, probably for the last time. Yep, still on the couch, still having a bad one, but let's keep going. All right, so before we get out of here, we've got a couple other things that I definitely want to talk about today. So we're going to take things a little bit closer to local, because, you know, it's election season here too, and there's lots of stuff going on. So welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Again, it is the Finally Friday edition. Don't forget to come back in once we wrap here. Come back in about an hour for the weekend news roundup. Then I'll be back later tonight for He Said, She Said with the lovely Aggie Regan. That is at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So we just talked about the UFO files and the lack of lizard people data, which is exactly what the lizard people would want you to think. Anyway. And the government saying, trust us, bro, but also here's some weird moon dots. Now, let's bring that transparency conversation home for a bit, because not all government mystery involves 3 dots over the moon. Sometimes it's a memo buried 3 clicks deep on an agency website. Oklahoma has now signed the Guidance Transparency Act into law. That was Senate Bill 1433, which requires state agencies to make guidance documents publicly available online and at their principal place of business. It also requires those documents to be submitted to the Office of Administrative Rules for publication in a searchable, centralized format. That was actually from Oklahoma House of Representatives as well as the Oklahoma Legislature, which is where we sourced it from. Now, that may not sound as exciting as, you know, the UFO files. There's no Apollo mission. There's no mysterious particles. There's no lizard people officially. But this probably affects your life more, especially if you live in Oklahoma, because government does not only separate or does not only operate through giant laws with dramatic floor speeches. A lot of government operates through guidance documents, agency memos, bulletins, interpretations, internal policies, and this is how we do things. You know, that all involves paperwork. You know, the how we do things stuff involves a lot of paperwork. And if those documents affect how a citizen, a business, a school, a local government, or a nonprofit gets treated by an agency, then the public should be able to see them. Not exactly sure when that became controversial, and it shouldn't be, but kind of seems like it's going to become that way. If the rule affects me, I should be able to find the rule, you would think. If the agency is using guidance to interpret the law, I should be able to see that guidance. If bureaucrats are making decisions based on internal documents, those documents should not be treated like sacred scrolls in a basement archive. Show us the rules. It's kind of the whole point of having the rules, is it not? And this ties directly back to the UFO conversation in a much less weird way. The reason people distrust government is not always because they are paranoid. Sometimes they distrust government because government gives them a reason to distrust them. It hides things, it buries things, it changes the interpretation. Remember that whole vignette thing that I was talking about? One of the breakaway lines for me of that entire thing was when one of the Secret Service agents was like, why do we keep having to make up excuses for why we're deleting this stuff? Just tell them we're the government. We can do what we want. Yeah, that hit home for me. It tells people that is just guidance right up until the guidance is used to make somebody's life a lot harder. Transparency is not just about files that make headlines. It is about the day-to-day paper trail of power, and Oklahoma moving toward more public access to agency guidance is a good thing, in my opinion. But in this matters, transparency still has to be paired with due process, because good intentions can become bad government if the process is wrong. And that takes us to the Open Meetings Act fight that's been happening right here at home as well. Governor Kevin Stitt vetoed House Bill 3278, which dealt with Oklahoma's Open Meetings Act. His stated reason was due process. The governor's office said the bill would have allowed the attorney general's office to unilaterally determine that a public body violated the Open Meetings Act without formal legal action and without giving that body a meaningful chance to defend itself. Now, Attorney General Getner Drummond strongly disagreed and called for an override, arguing the veto hurt transparency and taxpayers. So we have a real Oklahoma fight going on here. And this is where we have to be consistent. Transparency is good. Open government is good. Public meetings do matter. But even good goals can be used to concentrate power if the process is wrong. Transparency without due process can become just another kind of government power. This is exactly what Virginia ran into the other day, because not transparency, but just a government overreach. Again, it was Democrats' own lengthy mail-in voter process that they passed to make sure that they could get enough votes in to make things the way they wanted to get them, again, to tilt. And if you were paying attention earlier, you now know what that code word means. The election. But so it was their own stuff. But kind of the same thing here. The governor is worried, hey, just because I trust the current attorney general with something like that, and it doesn't mean we should trust any future attorney generals with that kind of power. That's kind of bordering on the whole FISA power thing that the federal government has, with a lot less red tape. So I don't know. I got to admit, having had the government on my show when I was doing local morning stuff and almost landed a full-time gig as a local morning host here, I have been siding not with him so much in the last several months. I happen to agree with him here, though. Transparency without due process can become just another kind of government power. You do not fix backroom government by creating a different backroom with a different set of doors. That's the same lesson as Virginia. We just talked about that. You do not get to say fairness and skip the Constitution. And again, not even talking about the federal Constitution. They trampled all over Virginia's own Constitution. A Democrat court overrode them, and now they're screaming about MAGA. You do not get to say transparency and skip due process. You do not get to say public trust while giving one office, judge, jury, and enforcer power without a meaningful chance for the accused body to defend itself. And that is not me saying the Open Meetings Act does not matter. It absolutely matters. The public's business should be done in public, but process is not a technicality. Process is the thing that protects everybody when the politics get ugly, and it does happen even here in Oklahoma. And that brings us to one more close of show story, because when politicians ignore process, hide the rules, raise the cost of living, punish success, and call it compassion, eventually people stop arguing and start leaving. According to Town Hall's Amy Curtis, who will be joining us here in a little bit for the Weekend News Roundup, she has a piece today looking at analysis from the Committee to Unleash Prosperity using IRS migration data from 2012 to 2023. The claim is that nearly $2 trillion in cumulative income has shifted out of blue states and into red states over that period that we just discussed. New York reportedly lost about $680 billion in adjusted gross income. California about $503 billion, while Florida gained about $1.3 trillion, and Texas gained $371 billion. That was, again, pulled from Amy Curtis's Town Hall article. And again, she is a regular contributor here to the Weekend News Roundup, and she'll be with us in just over an hour, probably talking about a little bit more of that in more detail. Now, I'm going to be very careful with the wording here, and I'm going to save a lot of this for when Amy can talk about it if it's one of the stories she decides to pull from today. This is not the IRS putting out a press release saying, blue state's bad, red state's good. No, that's my job, because that's pretty true. Anyway, this is not, but this is, an outside analysis using IRS migration data. But the IRS does track state-to-state migration using tax return address changes and adjusted gross income flows. So the underlying kind of data is, in fact, real. The left wants you to think it's not, but it is. And the trend is simple. People and money move. Politicians can give speeches. They can denounce the rich. They can even say they're going to let you eat the rich. They can promise fairness. They can raise taxes. They can make it harder to do business. They can regulate, punish, shame, and posture. But eventually, people with options use those options. And it's not just billionaires. That's the part the left always wants you to miss. When high earners leave, they take tax revenue with them. When businesses leave, they take jobs with them. When middle-class families leave, they take school enrollment, church membership, little league coaches, grocery money, and property tax stability with them. This is not just a spreadsheet problem. This is a community problem. This ties all the way back to Virginia. You cannot call a 10-to-1 map fairness and expect people not to notice. You cannot call higher taxes compassion forever when the people paying the bills are loading their U-Hauls. You cannot call every voter concerned dangerous, every taxpayer selfish, and every business owner greedy damn business owners, and then act shocked when those same people decide they would rather live somewhere that treats them like citizens instead of ATMs. The biggest migration story in America may not be about geography. It may be about trust. People are moving away from governments they do not trust toward governments they think will leave them more room to breathe. And I'm going to stop right here, even though I'm getting close to out of time. For those of you that are moving with your feet, congratulations, you figured out how to vote with your feet. When you get where you're going, don't do what you voted for back home. You left for a reason. Keep that front and center. I don't want us to start hearing about all the things that we started seeing in Oklahoma City. Everybody moving back from California and everywhere else. Where's the bike trails? Where's the this? Where's the that? You left because you couldn't afford to live there. Now you're making it hard for people that were already there to live there. So, yeah. So, again, this is about trust. People are moving away from governments they don't trust toward governments they think will leave them more room to breathe until they start voting for the same stuff again, which is why I always have said from the moment I started doing this that the diehard left are locusts. They pick an area clean, they move to another one, complaining that it's too hard to live there now, and then they start making all the changes they made in the last place that made it too hard to live in the last one that they left. But that's the closing thought today. Whether it is a court ruling, an election result, a ceasefire, a UFO file, an agency memo, or a moving truck, the lesson is the same. Rules matter, trust matters, transparency matters, consequences matter. Now, another little interesting side note here for Oklahoma before I get through any of the stack of stuff that I've left behind is this. Homelessness is actually dropping in Oklahoma. In 2022, we were at about 34% of our regional population was either considered unhoused, using the new word that they like to use, or dangerously close to being unhoused. That's now down to 22%. So you guys can say all you want about Governor Stitt and all the things that you said that you don't think worked, but they've been working. Just saying. All right. But so anyway, let's see. I know I've got a couple things that I had on the board that I didn't use. So since we actually managed to keep a few minutes on the score clock, let's keep going here. All right. So I'm going to talk about this real quick, going back to Virginia, because the meltdowns have started in earnest now. This is from Jim Acosta 2 hours ago. Trump gets to redraw maps in his states, but the Democrats cannot do the same. What is happening to our democracy? Jim, let me tell you what happened to your democracy. You started extending your voting windows so far out that you left yourself no room to make emergency changes. That's why. That's why. So again, just as a reminder, a Democratic justice wrote the opinion striking down a Democrat gerrymander. So this was not Republicans. All right. So remember that whole I didn't get a chance to talk about this today because I got really gobbled up with Virginia. But since we've got a few minutes, remember the whole Tennessee story that broke yesterday, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, look what's happening in Tennessee," and all the left was like, "Oh my God, this is terrible," and all the right was like, "Is it really though? Is it really though?" Because there's things going on that it doesn't seem like you know. So I've got a clip where people kind of got surprised by something because, of course, the entire argument about this redistricting stuff is this is MAGA trying to hurt people of color. But watch this.
The woman now who is likely going to win the 9th district in Tennessee is a black Republican woman as a result of this redistricting effort. It's likely going to be a black Republican woman who beats that old white man.
Could I make this very simple
point? But that's racist?
We're going to come back.
It actually is.
We're going to take a quick break, and then Tesla and Congressman, I'm going to have you both respond. We'll be right back.
So there they go, calling a quick break because they didn't really know where to go with it when they figured out, wait, you mean the old white dude is going to lose and he's going to get replaced by a black woman? That kind of spits in the face of our entire argument there, doesn't it? You know what else spits in the face of their entire argument for everybody that's screaming and yelling about what happened in Texas, a lot of those districts that were redrawn are majority Hispanic because that's most of the people who live there. So again, last I checked, Hispanics got a lot more melanin than white folks. Just saying. I'm just saying. So all of this, when it gets right down to it, is just stupid. This is all a bunch of just stupid stuff. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna enjoy all of this while I can, because I'm sure the party that I vote for quite often will probably screw this up. But, I'm gonna say this again for the Republicans that might be paying attention, because I know we have political folks that pay attention to this show, even though they try to pretend that they don't. This was as close as I have ever heard a legislative body come out and basically call one side a cheater over the other. And if you don't think that's the thing that they're trying to do, this happened on Wednesday. And yeah, this is a bit of a longer clip, but I'm going to let the whole thing play for the most part. So here we go.
11. I recognize a member from Olmsted, Representative Quam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This is just to require the full removal of deceased people from the voters' rolls. And before you ask, well, nobody deceased is voting, the federal system at SSA has checked registrations and has flagged deceased people registering in the state of Minnesota. It's not a huge thing, but let's take care of it by cleaning up all. Oregon is doing it and other states are doing it, so it's not an unusual thing to do. Let's just vote green.
Yeah, except the problem is, as you notice the vote starting to come in.
The clerk will call the names of the members voting remotely. Allen.
Allen votes aye.
Allen votes aye. Burkle.
Burkle, go ahead.
Burkle votes aye.
Burkle votes aye. Franzen.
Franzen votes yes.
Franzen votes aye. Kozlowski.
Kozlowski votes no.
Kozlowski votes no. McDonald.
Here you are, Joe.
McDonald
Joe.
aye.
Hold on.
McDonald.
McDonald.
McDonald aye.
Say it again.
McDonald aye.
McDonald votes aye. Momani Hildsley. Momani Hildsley.
Momani Hildsley, no.
Momani Hildsley votes no. Wolgamott.
Wolgamott votes no.
Wolgamott votes no. The clerk will close the roll.
So, calendar for the day, HF number 4240, Amendment 4240A 11, and
67 yeas and 67 nays. The motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted.
so they just voted to not, I repeat, not remove dead people from their voter rolls. My question, as we close out the show, is why was there even a requirement to vote to take dead people off of the voter rolls? So Democrats voted unanimously to not require removal of dead people from Minnesota's voter rolls. Just pointing that out. That's Minnesota. I wonder why they want dead people still registered to vote. They keep saying these things don't happen. But if they don't happen, then just vote to make sure that processes are in place so that people can see that not only do they not happen, but they can happen. And then we might actually start trusting our election processes again. But again, just as we get ready to close things out for the day, a reminder, when you see all the Democrats weeping and gnashing of teeth today, first of all, make sure you've got plenty of popcorn. And as my good friend Aggie says, if you're running low on popcorn, because there's been a lot of a need for it lately, you can indulge in cupcakes or something else instead. So feel free to do that. But Aggie and I will be back tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern with He Said, She Said. I'll be back here in about an hour for the Weekend News Roundup. Looks like I'll be joined by Amy Curtis from Town Hall, BZ from SHR Media, and I'm trying to figure out if Brad is going to be available or not. He was partying like a rock star last night, and I haven't checked with him yet, but I will check with him in a minute. But again, a pretty easy thing. And I know it seems silly to those that, well, it doesn't really happen, so we don't need to do anything if it's not happening. You need to reassure people that it's actually not happening, because we're seeing with our own eyes a lot of times that it is happening, and then we're being told not to believe our own eyes. So it's a pretty simple concept. If people don't trust the process, reinforce the process so they trust the process. Looking at you, John Thune, on the way out the door. You've seen what just happened with Indiana. You've seen what just happened in Virginia. You see what's going on with a lot of the southern states that have been racially gerrymandered now for quite a while. You should probably get on board or get the hell out the way. My name is Rick Robinson. This is my show. Again, I will be back here in just a little bit for the Weekend News Roundup. Again, as a reminder, we do this thing every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, starting at noon Eastern. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, since I'm not usually running anything in that time slot, I do encourage you to go hang out over on the SHR Media channel and hang out with Mission Ready Men, Big E Earl Jackson, for the Mission Ready Men briefing in that same time slot. Also, I think there will be, and I keep forgetting to plug this one, I think Baron Bullstein will be live tonight. I haven't checked their feed to see if he's put anything up yet, but if it is live, that will be at 7 p.m. Eastern, and we will be simulcasting that here as well. But on that note, folks, we're going to get out of here. Want to thank everybody for taking the time to hang out with me today. For the couple of folks that came in, or a few folks that came in to say hi in the chat rooms, thank you for that. I promise I don't bite. I might nibble if you ask, depending on certain circumstances, but I don't bite. And we'll see you back in about an hour. Bye, everybody. Say goodnight, Gracie.